Welcome to my weekly live stream where I talk about practical problems to common Western, practical solutions to common Western problems. I'm a Muslim. I think Islam has unique solutions, but I want to give solutions that anybody can apply, whether they're Muslim or not. Let's go for it. My format is I react to YouTube shorts from wisdom around the internet. Uh, let's see what this guy's got to say. He seems to be from Mexico, an ex millionaire who felt that his money didn't make him happy. Let's go for it.
If there's one thing that I admire about the culture down here is that people are nice and they're friendly and they do it for no reason. Or maybe they do it for a reason. And the difference is in Western culture, what we've come to act like is simply what do I get out of it? What are my rights? And we don't do anything unless we get something out of it. And I think that's probably the core of the breakdown of our society. So, how do you stop that core breakdown? You be nice to people. You wave at someone if you don't know them. You say hi if you don't know them. You just wish someone a good day for no other reason except to potentially make them happy. And inadvertently, you do that enough in one day, you'll be happy. If there's one thing that I admire,
Cool. So normally I have another person. My brother was supposed to come. Maybe he'll come later on. Who knows? But I'm gonna, as a backup, I've got an interesting alternative, and that's going to be an artificial intelligence to have a conversation with them. I haven't really seen how politically incorrect I can get this artificial intelligence guy to be. But I will give it a shot. Let's see how it goes. I've got no idea how this is going to work out. So let's introduce Miles. I'm gonna from sesame.com. Let's share different page, stop sharing, I guess, and then reshare, not invite, present, share screen, crossing uncanny valley. Ooh, interesting. Okay, we got Maya or Miles. I'll go for Miles. Press to start the conversation. Okay. Come on, Miles. We had a chat before. One microphone is required. Microphone in use. Sorry, Miles couldn't pick up the call. Oh my gosh, it's not going to work. Okay, never mind, because the microphone is already in use. That's interesting. Never heard of that. Okay, that's not going to work out. So, let me give you my thoughts on this. I, for people who don't know, I am currently. Let me go back to this since we can't use Miles. Present, stop, represent, share screen, this. So, for people who don't know me, I am British, but I moved away from England partly because of what this millionaire is saying. It's very individualistic, and I feel like people are like robots or zombies walking past each other in London, England. And no wonder depression is at all-time high in England. We've got rising levels of suicide, loneliness, and things like that. Even though there are about 8 million people in London packed next to each other, we've managed to ignore each other. It's like you're not allowed to smile at each other, all these unwritten rules. You're not allowed to make eye contact, all sorts of stuff. You're not allowed to even make interesting conversation. You just like to, but you have to talk about the weather. So anyway, so I get what this guy is talking about, and I think it's a common problem in many Western countries. People might say New York is a bit different, but I think they just aggressively talk to each other. I'm not sure if they have meaningful conversations. So, but there are a lot of deep, interesting things he's got to say, and I want to talk about. And at one level, at a basic level, um, there are a couple of things I want to say. First of all, we're social beings. So trying to connect with people, being open, just like taking the first step by saying hello and smiling and stuff like that, that's going to make you more social, and therefore is going to make you more happy, because that's a basic human need according to all psychologists. And again, from an Islamic perspective, there are three things that all human beings need, which is connection with other people. It's called a fitrah for anybody who's learned about Islamic ideology, like the natural state of human beings. So there are three things we need. We like to be united, we like to be connected, and we like to be devoted to God. Like, and actually even psychologists talk about that, like that they consider being devoted to a higher ideal, having meaning in your life, absolutely essential to happiness. So I've got a document in the description that refers to all this kind of stuff. Um, so which kind of like all the Quranic references and psychologists and all that kind of stuff. So if you want to look into it yourself afterwards, as a quick summary of what I'm saying. So anyway, so there's a lot of truth at a very basic level, and just to summarize again, like it gets you more connected, right? But then there's another level which psychologists have said already, which is by being the one who gives, by being generous, makes you happier. And that's another teaching of Islam. Paradise, it says, according to Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, paradise is for the generous. And you'll find that if you look around, people who are generous just seem to be more light-hearted, more relaxed, more happier. And the people who are selfish, they're always, tight, and they think the world is unfair, and they're increasingly miserable. So I just recommend, if I love giving quick takeaways, I recommend just trying, just being really generous. And what does generous mean? Means, doesn't mean giving money. Like this guy, it's like just smiling, giving like some of your personal kind of, you're risking your own kind of importance or something by possibly looking stupid by just saying hello. Like that's a British perspective. Like, oh no, I might look stupid, or somebody might be angry with me for me smiling at them or something like that. And so just making a bit of an effort. I just do as an experiment. I always say this: do things like, don't believe what I'm saying. Just try it out for like a month or something, and you'll really find a difference in your life. I really believe it, right? But don't just believe me. There's so many things I'm going to quote. For example, there's a really interesting study. Just YouTube these things. I don't make links and references in all for everything I say in the description document that I've given, the summary document I've given in the description. But like, there are things like studies that say that if you buy coffee for other people, it'll make you happier than buying coffee for yourself. Now, coffee is a special kind of product in the sense that you don't need it to survive. So, like many of us in the West, even if we consider ourselves poor, we have many luxury goods like coffee. And so we just don't need more and more coffee. In fact, we probably need less coffee. And so by buying stuff for other people, we build all sorts of connection, we build meaning in our lives, we feel better about ourselves as human beings. We think, oh, there's some sort of value in our life. We're kind of making a difference in our life. And one of the things I try to get across in my videos is that very few people understand how human beings work. Like, consider a human being like a robot with buttons. We don't understand our happiness buttons. Our happiness buttons is not by stuffing our faces and eventually getting diabetes and stuff like that and making ourselves sick. Okay. In fact, stuffing our faces is usually a coping mechanism for not being happy. Okay. For compensating for our unhappiness, we try to kind of drown the feeling of sadness by eating more and more food, right? So what we want to do, the buttons are selflessness, doing things for other people, um, being generous, being kind, whatever what were the other things? Having meaning in our lives. Okay, feeling like we make a difference. That is the kind of stuff that makes us happy. But then I'm going to go into something a lot deeper and really interesting, because there is a problem maybe in what we're saying. What he's saying, there's a couple of things. I love it when people are here. You know what? I'm going to invite people to join in if they like. I forgot there was somebody else who said he might join in, and I forgot to give him a chance. Come on, Mike, if you're interested. I like kind of feedback to tell me how I'm possibly wrong, because it actually helps me to remind me of the things I'm missing, right? If I'm just monologuing, it's a bit tricky. So, Mike or anybody else can jump in and disagree with me, because I find it as a useful sounding board, as it were. So uh, I said this to one of my students that he lives in London. I work online, so a lot of my students are in London and England. And he said, "Oh, in typical Londoner fashion," he said something like, "What if the person you're walking past is having a bad day, and you ask them if you're going to have a good, just like hello, and if you're cheerful, that might annoy them that you're happy." This is a very typical thing. Like Londoners, or many Londoners, don't like other people being happy if they're miserable. I don't think that necessarily works. I think a lot of Londoners don't like other people being happy, right? But if you're trying to cheer the other people up, people love connection. People are really miserable. There's a campaign for connection, actually more to do with listening, right? People just listening to each other. Another thing we're really bad at in the West, we just want to talk. We don't want to listen to other people. We're not interested in how other people feel. Like when we ask people how they're doing, we don't really want to know the answer. Um, but I would say most people, and there's a bit of science behind what I'm going to say. Most people will immediately, out of a human reaction, feel happy if you try. I have to be careful how I say this. Like if you pick an older person, people in a more there are a lot. It is tricky in London, but if you do try to make a connection with people in a sort of reasonable way, let's start with work. Just say hello to everybody. This is something I used to do, I still do. Well, I work online, but especially when I worked in schools, I would be the one who would say hello, wave at people more than anybody else. And genuinely, those people just felt loads more happier just because of that. Start with people you know at least. Okay, and then you can look at kind of slightly happier people. They do say they would like to have it. My point is, without getting into details, is that generally people do respond well. My student who said that other people might react badly in London if you smile at them and say hello is kind of true. But he actually said something interesting. He said he does smile and say hello to older people, and the older generation were more social. They come from a generation that was culturally more social, right? And our more modern culture is kind of app orientated. We don't really have social skills in the same way as the older generation did. So they're a safe bet, and you get a good amount of happiness there just by being generous and kind. You will feel more meaning in life. You feel like you're a decent human being, and stuff like that. But once you start, you will find ways of finding people who seem to be more light-hearted. And when you're walking in the park, and they go, "Oh, this person's a bit reasonable looking. They're not looking down. They don't have headphones. Headphones is not a good sign," and things like that. So but I want to go into something really cool about answering the main question: does selflessness make you happy? Because there are a few problems with just being selfless. Well, selfless in which way? Just do nothing for yourself? That's a bit extreme, right? So the first answer to that would be balance. Always do balance, and balance is depending on your current ability to be generous. So, for example, if you go, like, just to kind of give a simple explanation, if you are regular at the gym, your idea of easy or balance or good exercise, when you're lifting, if you're a regular at lifting weights, is you can lift way heavier weights than somebody who never lifts weights. So my point is, if you're already a very generous person, it's easy for you to be more generous than a person who's never really generous with their time. Okay, so balance in life is according to your current ability, and you should always be trying to push yourself a bit more. Okay, if you're lifting weights and you do, if you're used to lifting really heavy weights and then you just lift like really lightweight, you're not doing exercise, your body is not benefiting, you're not exercising essentially. So you to have a feel like you're having a meaningful life, you want to feel like you're making an effort, not doing really easy things, because that doesn't feel meaningful. That's too easy. Human beings need the strain. Human beings are made for struggle. Okay, we feel bored if we're not engaged in difficulty. Like, if you think about what it means to do something, to feel successful, do you feel successful by doing really easy things or something really difficult? It's always really difficult. We like to do difficult things, but we like to do difficult things only if they're somehow meaningful. So a couple of things there: don't do what's it called, selflessness. There needs to be some sort of path, some balance. And what is this path that you need? What you need really is, um, really, quite frankly, guidance and direction as to how to be selfless. If you're just simply, I don't know, giving away all your money or something, that could possibly work in some ways. Um, but we do need direction in our lives and how to apply good deeds to other people. And that's the kind of thing. This is the kind of thing I want to go deep into, because he said something really interesting. This guy, a broke millionaire, and that start with saying hello to people. And that coincidentally, maybe coincidentally, is exactly the teaching of Prophet Muhammad in a really beautiful saying that I want to break down about finding happiness. And it goes like this. And again, it's in my document in the description. And it goes like this: you will not find paradise, essentially happiness, because in Islam, this life, the paradise in the next life is a reflection of this life, right? So the paradise in the next life is a reflection of this life. So essentially, you won't find paradise in the next life if you don't find paradise in this life. And by the way, paradise doesn't mean you're rich. In fact, it probably means you're not going to be particularly rich, because being rich and happy is very difficult. But that's another topic. Um, so you will not, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, says, you will not find essentially happiness in the next life unless you believe, and you will not believe unless you love each other, and you will not love each other until you essentially spread goodwill. So there's a special greeting in the Abrahamic religions, that's Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. They all have very similar teachings because they have pretty much the same root, and that is to, whenever you meet any stranger, go past anybody, have the habit of saying peace be upon you. That's all three religions have that very interesting shared greeting, and it's very important in those teaching in all those religions, except for, of course, Christianity has been watered down, so very few Christians even know that teaching. But certainly Jesus would have considered it essential to do that, to follow that part of the teaching. Anyway, so what is the psychological connection between finding happiness, believing, love, and spreading this essentially goodwill to all people? Let me break it down. So, first of all, belief. Belief in what? Essentially, the truth, whatever the truth happens to be. And another word for the truth is essentially, in common, in modern day terms, I guess, is wisdom. So how do you learn wisdom? One, well, first of all, you don't learn wisdom from people you hate. And you might notice, like when people are arguing and they hate each other, they're not really learning from each other, just being angry, and actually they're misquoting each other, misunderstanding each other, and doing everything they can to not understand the other person's perspective. Very, very rare when they're angry with each other. I've seen like one scenario where I was watching a video and the person actually said, "Oh, I get what you're saying," but he was calm. And it was very rare. People in the comments of that particular video were really surprised. But actually, it matters that you're calm when you're talking to the person, right? So if you hate another person, you cannot learn from them. But if you love everybody, if I was putting into a short quote, it would be something like, if you love everybody, or if your heart is open, so will your mind be open. I think that's kind of true from your experience of life. I'm not sure if I can, there's a psychological evidence to support that yet, but very quickly and increasingly, there's so many psychological studies that seem to support everything religion teaches. So I wouldn't be surprised if such a study is around the corner. So from your own experience, consider this. Isn't it true that when people hate each other, they don't learn from each other? And when people love each other, this might be a little bit more rare, um, they learn from each other. They consider the other person's opinions. So, but how can you get to a stage when you can love each other? Um, and this very interesting technique of walking past everybody, wishing each other well, even if you can't say it out aloud. If you, in your mind, when you walk past every single person, um, just say peace be upon you, and peace be upon you, what it means practically, or according, at least in the, the teachings of Islam, it means to say, you're free from danger from my hands and my words, basically wishing the best for them. um, and so there's a study which is which supports that, the idea that if you repeat something a lot, you start believing in it. And this is what all propagandists have saying. Goebbels, Hitler's most famous um, propagandist, said something along the lines of, if you repeat a lie many times, enough times, it becomes the truth. Right? What it means to say is that, and this is very, very, very common even in modern day times, people advertising based on this idea. You just keep repeating an idea, even if you at first you think it's wrong. What happens is your initial reaction is to not believe it. But if you repeat the ideas, for some reason your brain stops guarding against the lies, and you start believing in it. So it's something called the illusory truth effect. Again, I've given a link to a video that kind of talks about that in the description document I've got. And effectively, if, in short, what I'm trying to say is, if you keep wishing people well, keep wishing people well, and you do it indiscriminately, this is a really important part of the the kind of love you want to demonstrate, right? Um, you will start having love for other people. You start believing that you wish other people well. And often you need to love people you don't currently love so you can learn from people you don't currently learn from. Because what we do at the moment, we live in bubbles. We only agree with people we already agree with, and therefore you're not learning, and you live in a very narrow way of thinking. People on the left stay on the left, people on the right stay on the right, godless people, atheists only listen to atheists. I try to learn from 5-year-olds, absolutely everybody. I don't have a problem with anybody, even though people, like, if you see my debates and speakers corner and stuff, people hate me, want to kill me literally. I don't hate them, I feel sorry for them. I do kind of, I'm careful if somebody wants to kill me, like I'm careful, like, not to start a fight with them, or, um, you know, careful about my camera and stuff like that. But I don't really hate them. I feel concerned for them that they have that kind of attitude, because it's quite really bad for them. Because bad for them in the sense that they have a very narrow way of, aggressive way of looking at life, and it's not going to be good for them. we can go into that. That's another topic. Um, so the point is that if you are, you know, learning from each other, you're gonna. I'm gonna circle back now. If you're open to learning from everybody, especially the people you're not currently learning from, then you start learning really quickly, left, right, and center. You be open to many truths, and when you're open to many truths, you understand the world as it is. Most people don't understand the world as it is. Okay, they're resisting learning. There's a really bad way to live, to resist learning. You just have to assume when you're born, you basically don't know anything, right? So you're going to start learning quickly. You're going to don't assume you know everything. That's like a ridiculous position to have. Keep assuming you don't know, and then you'll keep learning. Let me see. What's this? Let's react to some comment. The Ahmadiyya groups keep Ahmadis separated from Muslims. Ahmadis should be allowed to pray in Sunni mosques. So I don't think Ahmadiyya groups keep Ahmadis separated from Muslims. So that's an interesting perspective. I'm friends with loads of Muslims of different kinds, so I'm not sure how true that is. Um, so, I mean, so this thing about Ahmadi Muslims should be allowed to pray in Sunni mosques. That, at the end of the day, everybody's free to do it. As Ahmadi Muslims, I'm an Ahmadi Muslim, which is, if people don't know much about us, where our motto is love for all, hatred for none. We're famous for coexisting with other people. It's Sunni Muslims who like to go and kill us in places like Pakistan. So I think that, if anything, keeps us separated from people. But even then, we're usually killed by people we're serving. So we have many doctors who've been serving people for free, and then from the same community, people come and kill us. So I don't think that's the right perspective, that we're kept separate, where we integrate. We're the only people who really have, peace symposiums that invite people from all backgrounds, different religions. So I think that's quite biased, I would say. But tell me how I'm wrong. When you say having peace symposium where we invite people from all different backgrounds to our mosques and encourage peaceful conversations and say things like our famous motto, love for all, hatred for none, and where we have peaceful ties with governments all over the world, including places like Israel, where we have positive conversation, lots of videos with Jews and stuff like that, where other Muslims don't have that, um, you know, that kind of behavior. I don't think we're the ones who are bringing up the rules, and I suppose it ties with this whole thing about being selfless and being open to learning from each other and being peaceful. We believe in, when we say peace be upon you, to really, we really mean it. And I'm not sure if other Muslims seem to have that attitude when they aggressively want to, say we want to kill you and stuff like that. And they keep saying things like you're not Muslim. Why bother with, saying who's Muslim and who's not Muslim? This seems to be a very common thing that I experience with other kinds of Muslims, but of course not all Muslims. Um, so Mirza Masroor Ahmad is our international leader. Do Google him. You can learn more about him. He's all about promoting tolerance and love. So I don't see how that's true, that he keeps us separated. I don't really see that at all. He keeps promoting, do feel free to jump into, if you can see the link above, Temperance Ministry. I'm not sure what your background is, but do join on the camera if you like. But let's keep responding to all your comments. He doesn't allow them to pray in Sunni mosques. So that's true. What I mean to say is you're free to do anything you want, but at the end of the day, our teaching is that since God has given an imam, a leader to follow, essentially through a prophet, anybody who rejects God's leader, we can't accept that leader, through prayers and stuff like that. No, we can't accept an imam that has rejected God's Imam. So it's very, very simple. So I'm not really lying. You just need. I don't think that's quite a aggressive way of responding. And I think we don't need to be, as I was saying, we don't need to be aggressive. We need to be open and kind and understanding if we want to learn from each other. Just like I said, like, if you're interested in what Prophet Muhammad just said from the quote I just gave, do look in the description. He said we need to love everybody, so don't need to be aggressive. That's not a really loving kind of approach. Being listened to makes us feel listened to. When someone only pretends to listen and talks at you, it makes you feel like it is a stupid waste of time. Yeah, sure. I'm quite well known for listening to each other. People call me because they think I listen to them, and I'm interested in their problems. So, yep, thanks for that comment. Uh, he isolates them like a cult. That's a claim. I mean, if you look at all our YouTube videos, we're very open. We've had a history of the last 100 years of through all our religious leaders of being very open. We invite people all the time to our, um, you know, conventions and things. So I'm not sure how that's true. What have we got here to say? Do we need to be told again and again to smile more and patronize to death? So I think so. I think we need to be smiling. I think there's another. So in Islam, I mean, I if I think that something's not happening in society, and this I suppose is important, if it's not happening in society and people are increasingly miserable, they probably need to be repeated and reminded. And Islam teaches in the Quran that reminder is beneficial or profitable. So people don't always learn the first time. You keep repeating simple teachings again and again. Islam is a very simple teaching, and we just keep repeating it, and then eventually some people listen and many people won't, but we can only help the best we can. I mean, let's respond to the rest of it. Patronized, I think patronized is a very Western word, assuming negative intentions. And I think it's a sad word that people have adopted. Patronize means that somebody has a bad intention or looking down upon you when they're explaining something. And I think that's certainly it's against the teachings of Islam to assume people's intention. There's a verse of the Quran that says we should not be, what's the word? We should not be suspicious of people's of their intentions. So, and the reason is because often, or it can often be incorrect. So yeah, it's a really bad sin to be suspicious of people's intentions, and patronize assumes negative intentions. I think that's a really harmful word. There's a lot of words like that in kind of Western vocabulary to just assume really negative things and be really negative to other people. Like, for example, what am I doing in this video? I'm promoting goodwill, being nice to each other, and I seem to have a lot of comments just being negative. Why would people be negative? I think that's concerning. Um, as the phrase goes, hurt people. So maybe, why would you say something negative to somebody who's saying something positive? It means that the person is suffering in some way. So when you're saying something negative to other people, it suggests that you have a difficulty, and you're just demonstrating that. I wouldn't recommend being negative unnecessarily. So what's this? Mr. Masroor was in the newspapers for covering up sexual abuse. I don't know if it was a newspaper of any sort. Sorry, my eyes are quite tired from staring at the screen. But uh, that's a claim, I suppose. Mr. Masroor supposedly in this video said that let the legal process work its way through rather than in this particular claim of sexual abuse, rather than just saying things all over social media. which might even, ruin the legal case itself. I don't know. Um, because you're not supposed to necessarily talk about legal cases outside, or I don't know how the legal system works generally, but generally when there's a legal case going on, you're not supposed to talk about it outside the legal case because it might ruin the legal case. I can't remember the exact terminology, so maybe. Anyway, who's this? He's dodgy and not loving. That's your claim. I think people should watch, what he's got to say, listen to videos, and make their own conclusions. What's this? How many Ahmadis are there worldwide? I got no idea, really. Not really. A couple of millions, in the millions. I don't know. Smile and the world smiles with you. With you is trite and patronizing. I don't know. Again, I think that's assuming combination, negative intentions. I don't think it's healthy to assume negative intentions, because I think all you do by assuming negative intentions, you make the world around you very small, because then you go, oh, this person intends bad things, this person intends bad things, and then you've got less people to talk to. And again, according to this thing where if we're trying to absorb truth, we're really limiting the truth and wisdom that we can gain by just assuming negative things and feeling negative towards other people. If we hate somebody or angry towards people, we're not going to learn from them. So yeah, I don't hate any of the people commenting here, by the way. So it's possible there's some truth in there. Smile and the world smiles with you. I don't know if that's true. I think most people, well, according to the teachings of Islam, most people are going to be, the majority, the Quran says, are going to be led away from the truth. So I don't think the intention is that everybody will go along with you. I think that's a really important thing. Like sometimes we do good things and then we're put off. We feel sad that everybody doesn't understand and stuff like that. And I don't assume, I assume like most people won't understand, and I'm looking to be useful to the 0.1%. And if, like the Quran says, if you can save one person's life, it's like saving all of humanity. My point is that nowadays, a lot of people try to get millions of views and they're interested in helping millions of people. They're not interested in helping one person. They think one saving or being helpful to one person is not good enough. And the Quran's got a very different attitude. It's like one person is really valuable. So if I can help one person, that's great. So I don't think smile and the world smiles with you, but if we can spread a little bit of joy and one or two people smile back, that's wonderful for me. And I'm not, I don't have the belief that I've got a Quranic belief that most people kind of essentially will make their lives miserable, and it'll be good if I can get one person to be less miserable. Okay, so Ahmadis have been accused of asylum scams to come over here. Well, when you say over here, I'm assuming somehow you're not talking about Jordan, you're talking about England, or somewhere like that in the West. And well, Ahmadi Muslims are being killed in in Pakistan, and so they claim asylum. And a lot of government ministers who have gone to Pakistan have verified that there definitely is a lot of persecution. A lot of people have been killed over many years, and there's endless cases of that. So why cannot they, why can't they claim asylum when they're being persecuted by other kinds of Muslims, which is really, really quite sad. I think what you should be concerned about is if you're another kind of Muslim and the kind of Muslim you agree with are the kind of people who are killing Afghani Muslims. I should think that, especially since it's Ramadan, where it's supposed to be all peaceful and things like that, you should be asking yourself, why do the people who I think are good Muslims killing other people, whether they're Muslim or not, whether you consider them Muslim or not? That's the kind of thing a Muslim, in my opinion, should be considering or be thinking about. Like when you're preaching, let's say, to other Muslims, you should be thinking like, would I be proud of telling? So when if you're preaching to other non-Muslims and you're saying to them, "Oh, Islam is wonderful and peaceful and things like that," would you be proud of saying that the people I consider Muslims are killing other people who, you know, just killing other people because they claim to be Muslims and stuff like that? Would you be proud of that, or is that something you would hide? So you shouldn't really want to hide things about your belief, right? So then maybe you should question it. So that's that. So lots of interesting comments. Thank you for keeping me company here. I think it's all, to my benefit by being able to answer all these questions. It was the Daily Mail. I mean, the Daily Mail says all sorts of things, I guess. They even had a recording of Mr. Misru. I'm kind of surprised that that's the case, but anyway. Um, I'm not sure if the Daily Mail is the best kind of newspaper, but let's see. I think there's less than 3 million. I don't know. I've got no idea. I think that seems to be a little bit on the short side, but yeah. Um, but it doesn't really concern me. Okay, so I suppose I'll try to respond to that a bit more. Um, the Muslims were very small in number at first. Does that make them less true? And I think there were less, the like as a percentage when they grew in numbers. It didn't mean that the quality of the Muslims was probably less than when they were smaller in numbers, right? So, and that's true of all religions. They start off small. It's not really a big deal. Uh, and think about, if you really think Ahmadi Muslims are false Muslims, why are they the only people with khalifas and all the other Muslims cannot get together a khalifa? There's also the Muslim groups that try really hard, but they can't. They can't maintain it. That's really interesting. And why would God allow such a religious group to spread all around the world, be incredibly successful in many ways? Like, we've got the biggest mosque in London, we've got the first mosque in London, all sorts of endless things. Like, there's so many things we're first and best at. So why would, if we're so false, and we've got all sorts of arguments that nobody can refute. They've got all sorts of videos that I've given, right? So do go and check them out at Speaker's Corner, and people can't respond to them. One of my latest one is a debate with Adnan Rashid, who I just gave him a verse of the Quran and he just couldn't respond to it. So do check out my videos, and nobody can respond to them. How much money? So my point is that not only are we, what's it called, special in that we've got the only Khalifas and over 100 years of having the only Khalifas amongst all the Muslims. Not only are we special in, being able to have our own mosque that we pay for, whereas other Muslims have to depend on money from the British government because they don't have a system for collecting money. There's endless things that we're better at than all the other Muslims, despite we're considered the only non-Muslims. And that in itself is a prophecy that there will be 72 sects and one true community, and we've been isolated as the one on one side, whereas the other Muslims consider themselves united as 72 together. So do check out that saying. Do ask me for that hadith if you don't know about it. There's endless thing. But not only that, we have an understanding of the Quran that people cannot debate with. Like, we've got verses of the Quran we'll quote to you that prove that Prophet Muhammad certainly was not the last prophet. So I've done that over and over. So do think, why is it that Prophet Ahmadi Muslims are so special in that way, supported in such a special way? This guy has a victim complex. I don't know. Victim complex? Not really. No, as Muslims, as Ahmadi Muslims, very positive. We just go ahead and keep doing positive things. We are killed. I'm not sure if that's called a victim complex. That's just using a phrase out of place, I guess. What else? He's talking about backward country where his guys are being killed. So backward country called Pakistan. So you're calling Pakistan a backward country? Okay, this is the same place where something. which kills people for eating beef. Okay, so I mean these are the Muslims the many other Muslims support. So interesting. But thanks for all your comments. Okay, so getting back to the main topic, I guess. Um, I do think that this person. Let's play the video again for people who missed it, and then we'll kind of let's see if there's anything else to add. But I do think he's got a feeling that a lot of other people have in the West. There's a really great movie I recommend watching. It's called Warm. No, Warm Blood. Blood Warm. Okay, I mean really cool. Warm Blood. Warm Blooded. Let me quickly Warm Blood movie. Uh, Warm Blood. Yes, I remembered it right. Epic movie. 2022. Do basically the idea of it is that in the West we've lost the ability to communicate, and we actually act like zombies. We go, oh, "How are you doing?" Like we don't really communicate very well, and essentially it's about bringing people back to life, talking heart to heart and stuff like that. So we really do. This they've even made it so there's an exceptional, awesome, very funny movie to talk about this fact that we are really incapable of communicating nowadays in the West, and so people understand that, and I think a lot of people feel the same way, like this broke millionaire is suggesting, and we need to come back to where people feel connected to each other, and we don't do things like in a transactional way. We're only going to be nice to you if you're nice to us back and stuff like that. So anyway, let's play this video again and see if we can add to it.
About the culture down here is that people are nice and they're friendly and they do it for no reason. Or maybe they do it for a reason. And the difference is in Western culture, what we've come to act like is simply, what do I get out of it? What are my rights? And we don't do anything unless we get something out of it. And I think that's probably the core of the breakdown of our society. So, how do you stop that core breakdown? You be nice to people. You wave at someone if you don't know them. You say hi if you don't know them. You just wish someone a good day for no other reason except to potentially make them happy. And inadvertently, you do that enough in one day, you'll be happy. If there's one thing.
So yeah, the thing I mean, do you think about this kind of beautiful scenario he's creating? The people where he is, it seems like Mexico. I think he's American, and he's gone to Mexico, looking, judging from his hat. It's just, isn't it a beautiful thing to imagine people just nice to each other everywhere? If you look in the comments, I mean, I'm thank you for the comments and something to respond from, but it's really negative. Imagine everybody was that negative. It's like, it's not nice. Do you know what I mean? But I mean, I do value people asking important questions that they really feel about, but there's probably a nice way to ask about it. Do you know what I mean? There's probably a polite way of asking about it. For anybody, if like Temperance Ministry is a Muslim, for example, do you think Prophet Muhammad talked like that? If you look do all the sayings of Prophet Muhammad, he's really polite. In the Quran, it tells Prophet Muhammad to talk politely and nicely, otherwise people will go away from you. So, so there's a polite way of making criticism. So that's what I'm saying. Temperance Ministry, it's up to you. I welcome, and I responded to all your comments as best as I can. I'm just saying, do you really think that if you look back at it, do you think that's a positive way of communicating? It's really different to what this guy is saying, I'd say. And I'm not sure if you know the verse of the Quran about, saying things softly and kindly, whatever. You can say the same thing in that way, in an open way. You say, oh, you know what, I don't know, I've heard this. what's your opinion? That's the way of like asking a question in an open-minded way that will enable people to learn from each other. That's what I'm saying. But anyway, so yeah, but there's another really important thing that he said. People in the West, we think about our rights rather than our responsibilities. And people don't understand it's responsibilities that make us happy. Let me explain that. So Viktor Frankl explains that it's meaning that makes us happy. What is meaning? It means doing things for a higher cause. It's part of our dopamine system to work towards a higher cause. What's his name? Jordan Peterson, even though he's a bit of a Zionist supporter, I learned plenty of him, learned plenty from his videos. He's a very famous psychologist who talks about the fundamentals of what makes us happy, and he talks about the dopamine system, which is designed to make us work hard towards endlessly or limitlessly high goals. Okay, so I would say I would say his what was his point? His This guy broke millionaire. He's talking about people just working towards their rights. The rights by themselves don't make you happy. They're kind of like just freedom to do anything doesn't make you happy. You need some level of freedom, but you can be happy with a lot of even limited levels of freedom, right? But just having freedom doesn't automatically make you happy. It's responsibility, the feeling that you are doing something difficult for other people that gives you meaning, that makes you happy. So that's a really important point there. So I think we focus on. I mean, Viktor Frankl himself said, next to the Statue of Liberty, we should have a Statue of Responsibility. And this is a very, very famous or revered psychologist. He might not be famous amongst the average person, but amongst psychologists, he's a really important figure alongside of people like Sigmund Freud. Um, so yeah, that's really important. What a beautiful, like, let's keep thinking, what a beautiful scenario this guy's painting. And it's really sad that we don't have that in the modern West. um Sensitive man, I mean, that's just a claim. It doesn't look, I don't think there's much evidence that I'm a sensitive man, because I don't seem to be crying. I keep doing these videos, people threaten to kill me, I laugh. So there doesn't seem to be much evidence. What is so negative? I think the way, yeah, all the claims. So from an Islamic point of view, you're making a claim, all sorts of claims, about my intentions, for example, sensitive, whatever. Whereas, and you're making all sorts of, unbalanced claim. You're saying like people having, what's it called? What's it called? He isolates people, even just, by, even though we're very open and invite people all the time. It's not very balanced. You also said, what else did he say? He keeps people separated. Well, again, that's not, doesn't seem to be evidenced. Uh, but also, you said something like people, you know, are claiming asylum. Well, I mean, yeah, sure. If they're being killed, shouldn't they claim asylum? So I think you should say, in a normal kind of conversation, you said, yeah, you got a point there, that people are being killed, therefore they've got a right to claim asylum. But my point is, you could have a comeback based on that, maybe. But anyway, respond to things I'm saying. I am more direct. So again, like I said, I'm not sure if you know the verse of the Quran about being polite and soft when you're talking. Prophet Muhammad could be more direct, but he was very polite in the way he said things. Facts over feelings. Well, I'm saying I gave you lots of facts, and you need yet to respond to them. So I'm not just simply giving feelings. I'm giving, facts, lots and lots of them. So that phrase doesn't apply in this case, I would say. What else have you got to say? But thanks anyway. temporary ministry. It's very interesting. The victim complex IMO, I forget what that means, is a tactic of the group to keep members isolated and dependent. As I said, we're not really isolated. We're kind of very open. So, as I said, I've responded to that a couple of times already. We invite people to our conferences and things like that. It doesn't seem to be a group that's isolated. Um, yeah, of course, these are my views. You came off as having a victim complex. Of course, you can have your views. I'm just responding with facts, as you say. That what you're saying doesn't seem to be supported by facts. So anyway, backward people in third world countries attack minority groups. I mean, we've been attacked in. I've been attacked in aggressively and rudely without facts in Speaker's Corner. Are they all backwards people in London as well? I mean, where do you live? Uh, I mean, London, as far as I know, is not a third world country, so that doesn't seem to be true either. I mean, London, England is not a third world country as far as I know. How much have you donated over the years? I don't know, lots of money, I guess. So what's your point there? I don't understand. Does it mean that if you donate more money, you're a better person or something? Does it matter how much money you have? But I don't know. I'm not really going to say on YouTube like how much, and I don't really count how much I donate and to who and whatever. You know what I mean? That's a strange. But maybe I mean, develop your question if you have any. What's your point that you're trying to make there? But anyway, coming back to this video, and by the way, thank you. Without you, I really couldn't have got to the end of this video because it's really hard to just talk by myself. So I appreciate all of you, especially Temperance Ministry, for kind of adding to the conversation. But I'm trying to get back on track for the last few minutes because it's a really important topic. People are really suffering by isolating themselves. I think Temperance Ministry is kind of demonstrating kind of like a kind of a negative attitude, which is really sad. And I think we should, despite people being really negative, like you can see I'm being positive towards him, but I do have to point out that it does seem to be pretty negative and he could probably say in a better way. But I'm still responding to him. I'm not really hateful or angry. So I think that's what we need to do. There's always going to be a lot of negativity. We're in a very, I don't want to call Temperance Ministry sick or something, but it doesn't. Let's say hurt people hurt people. I don't know if you know the phrase Temperance Ministry, but what it means to say is that if you're hurt, only then are you horrible to other people. But people are generally happy. They're kind of like, oh, they're just calm. They say things nicely. Even the teachings of Islam tells you to say things nicely. Maybe it's time to get that quote out. Why don't I quickly do that? Let's see if I can find it from the Quran. Verse about being polite and soft. Move away from you. Be polite. No. Kind. Speak kindly. Believers move away. Maybe I should search AI or something. It's very hard to find verse on the quote. Do not. Maybe I'll give the quote later on. I can't quite find it, but there is certainly a verses. And of course, he's Prophet Muhammad is known as Rahmatul Alamin, which means a mercy to all creation. So I'll get that verse for you. But I mean, wouldn't you be so now you're calling England a third world country as well. So I don't know what the limits are. I don't know what the argument is really anymore. I don't know. That's a weird question. Can you explain your question? Why are you interested in how much I've donated? How would it prove anything? But I regularly donate money to charity and people and other people, like not even charity, just like helping other people all the time as much as I can. I think that's important, I suppose, to the topic, in the sense that it's really, and I think, I suppose, thanks for getting me back on track in some ways. I think it's really important to, why is it psychologically beneficial to be generous and selfless? It's because we can get depressed by overly thinking about yourself. There's a saying of Prophet Muhammad that says, if you have a guest in your house, when they leave, they take away your worries. Okay, the reason is because you stop thinking about yourself, you stop wallowing in your feelings. Right? It's very easy to go in a downhill spiral when you're by yourself. I think there's probably some psychological evidence to support that as well. But when you focus on other people, serve other people, you realize other people have struggles that you don't have, and you're better off than them. There's another saying of Prophet Muhammad that if you want to overcome your, let's say, there's a beautiful way of saying it is disrespect of the blessings that God has given you, just look at people who've got less than you rather than looking what people have got more than you, then you immediately realize how lucky you are. Okay, so you could probably find that um, saying. It goes something like, the best way to not belittle the blessings of God is to look at people who are below you rather than who are above you, is the rough translation. But that's what it means, to look at people who've got less than you. That's a really good way. But our immediate or automatic behavior is to always look at people who've got more than you. And that's a perfect way of making yourself miserable, because there's always going to be somebody who's got more than you. Even if you're like, you got average salary, you're probably in the West. If you got an average salary, you're probably one of the richest people in the world, or just by having your average salary. So there's plenty of people who got way less than you, and don't underestimate that. That, and the question doesn't make sense. Giving to the group. Oh, you mean like to the community, like our Ahmadi Muslim community, which raises money to, save people around the world and does all sorts of good things? I don't know. A lot of money. I don't know. That's just what we do. We're very charitable. So, yeah, strange question. But thank you very much, Temperance Ministry. As I say, without you, I don't think I could have got to the end of the video. Have you gone beyond the end of the video? Appreciate it. Thanks to you for making the video a bit more popular. Appreciate that. Okay, thanks for listening. Hopefully it was useful. Really, really important topic. I really just hope that people just try, because I always try to make this a very practical video. Do try just to practice for a week or a few days, just being generous. Generous means just being a little bit uncomfortable, pushing yourself a little bit to do things for other people. And even if you did one small thing, just monitor your feelings. We're really bad as in a materialistic societies of looking inwards. We're always looking outwards. So if you just give a few pennies to a beggar, just see how you feel, and then think, oh, that made me feel happier. Let's do more of that. And then do study the psychology behind this kind of stuff. Do look at the description, the document and description I've given. There's a lot of evidence to say that will make you happier. And there's a lot more. I'd recommend one more TED Talk, really awesome TED Talk to finish off with. So, how to buy happiness. A TED Talk is talks by specialists, experts in their fields, especially sociologists and psychologists, right? TED Talk, search TED Talk, how to buy happiness. Really funny video based on tons of facts about how to be happy. Thank you for listening. Appreciate it. Have a good week.